Stop the war within you. I want to unpack this, and I want to take you on a journey with me, a journey that I've been on. So it's a journey that I can speak to because I've already walked down this path and I still walk it. So to stop the war within you is all about fighting. Stop fighting yourself. Stop beating yourself up and fighting and saying you're wrong and this and that and this and that, okay? This is Nina Zapala. I talk about spiritual personality typing, a roadmap to self-realization, to your true self. So let's unpack this, okay? So when I talk about stop this warring within you, I want to explain to you a time in my life that I was raging against myself. So let me explain this a little bit. So as you know, I'm really into personality typing, with a spiritual understanding, of course. So what happened is, as I started progressing in my career and getting a seat at the table, and trying to succeed only from this external world, everything was shifting. And it wasn't necessarily shifting in a good way. See, because my personality type is an ENTP. So I'm an extrovert, but I'm highly introverted. And extroverted intuition is what the established personality gurus call a dominant trait. As you know, I talk about spiritual personality typing, so I'm not going to use that term. I'll use it just as an identifier. But in the dominant trait, or as I like to call it, your North Star, it's your guiding light. It illuminates your path in life. So much different. Can you see the difference? Can you just feel the difference in the wording? From dominant to North Star. There's a difference. There's a shift there. But when you start looking at this, right, this is the trait that guides your life. That's why I call it the North Star. It illuminates a path for you. So you have 4 traits within each personality type. Let's just say 4, just for simplistic sake right now. And so you have a dominant trait, a secondary trait, a tertiary trait, and a what they call an inferior trait, right? I go into this very differently in my new book because I talk about spiritual personality typing. So what I did, and unpack your personality, let your inner God be your travel guide, I created a vocabulary for your functional stack that is unlike the vocabulary you will see out in the world for Myers-Briggs. It is different. It is more spiritually focused. It's more open-minded. It's broader in the sense that when you tap into that divine essence within you, which should lead your life, which is the life force of all creation that started you. That's where all the knowledge is. That's where all the wisdom is. That's where true intelligence lies. It doesn't lie in the external world. So this brings me back to my first point. I was trying to live in the external world, which is hard for an ENTP because we're highly conventional. Anything that's traditional, we're like, no, there's got to be a different way. It's just our personality type. I'm not saying tradition is wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying from an ENTP standpoint, we do not covet tradition. That is not where we exist. But see, I was pushing myself into this traditional role. So the fighting started. And for me, what was familiar was my inferior trait of introverted sensing. Now, introverted sensing is very traditional. It loves the history. It loves the convention. It thinks with history and past experiences in mind, totally opposing my North Star, which, if you know anything about extroverted intuition, it's all about possibilities, the unknown, what's to come, reshaping things, novelty, innovation, opportunities, possibilities. It is not stuck anywhere near in the history of anything. So what I started to do to fit into this external world that I let it happen. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm letting you know that I chose this path, obviously, which led to what I talk about my 7-year life tsunami. I want to get to that as well. But so on this path, I was letting this trait, which is called, again, in traditional circles, inferior. I like to call it more opposing. It's a paradoxal trait. It's a paradox that you must see and you must work through. And you must see it as one with that North Star, because you use all your traits. Again, here's another theory that I want to break down for you, because lots of the established thought theory and personality typing is, well, you're not going to use your tertiary trait, which is your third trait, which I call an emerging trait, probably one of your most important traits, I believe, but that's for another video. And then what they're talking about, this inferior trait, which I talk about, is an opposing or a paradoxal trait. So while I wasn't as conscious about this trait, it was still familiar to me because it was part of my personality. It was part of that functional stack. So it wasn't like so left field. I was aware of it. And so it did feel a little bit more comfortable. Well, am I doing the right thing? Well, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. This is how it's working. And meanwhile, this whole time, I'm fighting myself. So I'm fighting between my North Star and my opposing trait. We're in conflict. I can't believe I I stayed so long and I was so successful in what I did, because I was constantly warring with myself. You might be experiencing the same thing within your personality. You war within your traits, because the one trait's telling you to go this way, and the other trait's saying, no, go this way. You should be going this way. This is why I am so focused on the spiritual inward journey that takes you to the divine force within you, divine intelligence. It's a spark of divine within you. It's the spirit mind, which leads the logical mind of the personality. And then that spirit mind, it's a receiver for the mind of divine intelligence, the unlimited, the ultimate creator, health, protector, healer, all of that. And it's unlimited. So if you're looking at the divine mind that feeds your spirit mind, which, let's just make this a little bit, hopefully more easier for you to understand. It's your higher conscious, or your heart center. I like to call it your true self, because when you start illuminating your true self understands that it needs your personality type to express itself out in the world. So it needs the logical mind. The logical mind doesn't necessarily need your spirit mind. You see that in people. You're like, how do these people function? Because they're just functioning. They're separated from that divine spark within. They're not relying on their spirit mind. And when you don't rely on your spirit mind, divine mind can't it can send messages, but until you receive them and acknowledge them, that they're part of your truth, and then those truths are expressed through your logical mind, your personality, your personal reality. Thank you, Dr. Joe Dispenza, for making that clear. That's what happens. So I was warring within because I was not listening. I was not listening to my North Star trait, my extroverted intuition, especially in the role that I was in travel, very patriarchal. Like, I would sit at the table, and I'm intuitive, right? So shit just comes to me. Like, that's how my mind thinks. I'm just like, yeah, why don't we do this? And where's the facts? Where's the logic? We don't know anything about that. I'm like, well, if you want to do something new, you're not going to have a lot of details. So that's that, your intuitive sensing trait coming in. Where's the history of it? Where are the facts? Where are the figures? Sometimes there are none of that there. Sometimes there are. Sometimes there isn't. I'm not talking against any traits. I'm talking about my situation and how I was warring against my traits. So I'd get a lot of bullshit about, oh, well, that's not proven. Well, I'm like, okay, well, then don't do it. Do what you always do. And then, cry about sales. So, and that's why I got fired a lot. Because I was just like, whatever. It became so exhausting. But I was being pushed into that reality. And I let them do the pushing, whoever they are, and however they show up in the world, because I did really love my job. I was traveling all over. I got to be creative. I got to meet all kind of cool people and learn from all kind of cool people, from chefs and artists. It's like the world I love. I love that world. I love travel because travel is a great way to step into yourself in unknown places. So you really have to observe yourself and see how you show up in the world. So that's why travel is such a great way to start a journey of self-discovery. It's perfect. So I loved everything about it. What I didn't love was I like to say this word, stinking thinking. But it was just such stinking thinking. Well, how can you trust your gut and say that? Well, the matter of fact was, I would say these things, they would do what didn't work. They go, oh, let's just do what Nina said. Okay, well, as an after effect, oh, yeah, I appreciate you too. So it was kind of like not a good place. But anytime I did things, they would follow what I said. It would work. Because I wasn't looking externally for an answer. My intuition I was getting downloads from my spirit mind, which is my intuition. For me, that's my intuition. I was allowing that to come through and expressing it through my personality type. The fact of the matter is, it wasn't appreciated by many because they didn't understand it. And that's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I wasn't in a place or an environment that they could really understand that, And my hair is gray, so I'm not some young hipster just with gray hair. I've been in this battle and warring again for many decades because I never, ever want to follow convention. I know there's another way, and I don't know who the hell they is. They said you should do this. Well, who the hell's they? Who's they? I've asked that question my whole life. Who's they? And why is they telling me what to do? Nope. So this warring thing that I'm talking about, stop the warring within you, can start just from that. It can start from within your personality type assets, that you're just fighting against those assets. You're not letting one be seen by the other. And especially if you have introverted traits. Like, that introverted trait was very dominant in me because it was the way of the world. So I was being pushed into that thought theory where intuition back in the day, which now it's like way more accepted, but intuition back in the day, when you would sit at the table and go, well, I had a gut instinct that this is the path we should take for the campaign. Really? What is a gut instinct? It was quickly dismissed. But now we're seeing, and I see a lot of this through the way of the world. Like the world can be very extroverted. So if you're an introvert, it pushes that your time of reflection and those things. It pushes those things away. It kind of takes you off balance because people don't get it. People don't get it. They don't get that in you. They don't get that you need time for reflection, that you're not about the hustle, which, trust me, is a good thing. This is one of the big things I'm learning right now. So, you have to learn. You have to learn these things. And it's not easy to learn. Sorry, I'm going to yell at my dog here for a minute. It's not easy to learn because it kind of goes against your personality. Or people don't respect your personality type enough. So I want to change that. And this is part of the warring. When you're judging and blaming another person, that's part of the war. I'm going to tell you my warring thing that happened to me a couple weeks ago. I live in a neighborhood, and a lot of people will get things. And I'll give you an example. So many people, and you can see them behind me. So many people they'll get their poinsettias and everything for Christmas, and then Christmas is over, they're throwing them out. I'm like, oh, and that fires me up. So that fires me up because these poinsettias, to me, you can call me crazy, I don't care, but to me, they're living things, and throwing them out in the garbage is rude. To me, that is me. So many people don't care. They're like, whatever, Nina, you're so weird. I'm like, okay, whatever. But to me, they're living, breathing things. They have that life force energy in them, just like we do. So to throw them out without any regard to the gifts and beauty they brought you, to me, is upsetting. So here I am, warring. So how are you warring? Are you still in a feud with your mother-in-law or father-in-law or your boss or your friend? That's warring energy. And if you believe, like I do, that our individual thoughts add to the collective thoughts and we create our collective reality, just like our divine mind and our spirit mind and our logical mind creates our individualistic reality. It's the same thing on a wider level, on a wider scope. And I was just listening. Have you ever listened to Pamela Gregory? She's great. She's an astrologist out of the UK. And I'm just going to quote this from her. She was quoting Nan Thich Han, which I think I bastardized his name as well because I've never heard it. So anyway, he's a beautiful Buddhist who just passed away. And he said, if you want peace, we have to be peace. Peace is a practice, not a hope. So if you want peace in the world, you have to be the peace that you want. If you want love in the world, and I talked about love on this week's blog, you have to love yourself first. Everything starts within. We in the Western world kind of have things backwards. Because we don't start with the beautiful divine intelligence and wisdom from within us. We look outwardly to manifest and then try to bring it to us. That's backwards. That's like reverse energy. Doesn't really, the law of creation doesn't really work like that. Everything comes from within because it comes from that divine intelligence, which is all creation, all abundance, all health. It's the life force energy that not only keeps you going, but is breathed into every plant, every animal, every person, everything in life. And out into the cosmos it goes. So if you think about that, and let's just think about some things that are practical. When you first come here, you take your first breath, right? It goes in, you take your first breath, it goes, And then you release. So the first thing you do in your life is taking an inward breath. That should give you a clue. And then if you think about it, as a child, the mother doesn't carry the baby outward. It's an inner thing. It's an inner growth. A child is grown from within. Then it comes from within to the world, to the external world. Everything has an inner outer path. That's why in spiritual personality typing, I say we are spiritual beings. I know this is cliche, but it's true. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So all our wisdom, all our intelligence, our true self comes from the inside out. That's why I want you to travel from the inside out. That's why I'm really big on setting travel intentions. Traveling from the inside out. What is it that you want to do on your vacation? What is it? If you don't sit down and think about that for yourself, then you're just going to go and just do what everyone else is doing. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I don't care. Do that. But if you want to set an intention for self-discovery and return home knowing yourself, you've gained self-realizations so you can show up in the world as a better person. It's another way to look at that, right? So there's a lot to unpack with this, but I wanted to tell you about personality typing and how this warring within can really, it sabotaged me for many, many years, until I figured this stuff out. And I was going to talk to you about how my tsunami came in. And I swear, I just like 3 or 4 days ago, I just looked at that and I said, wow, that was a really challenging time in my life. And yes, good things came of it. But when I thought about too, when I got into the real details of it, and I thought about it, I thought, wow, that tsunami came. And what it did, this is interesting, is it took the material things away from me. And it took a lot. It took the fancy car, my home, the fancy clothes and the jewelry. Kind of took all that stuff away from me. It stripped down everything. It kept what truly mattered to me, though, my son. And it made me sit and really figure out what really matters to me. What matters? And I had to figure that out. It was not easy. Especially if you're really ingrained in the external world, because this external world is just like has you going this way and this way and this way, and it's chaotic and it's confusing, and there's highs and there's lows, but there's never that lingering peace that just keeps you at this. It's like roller coaster, right? You're on a roller coaster. Yep, you're down, you're this, you're that, you're flying there, you're doing this. It's more crazy. Life is crazier when you just live in that external world. You don't bring that peace to you. You don't bring a sustained joy because you're too busy trying to figure it all out and keep up. Once you start knowing your personality type, really start to understand it. And I'm not talking from the 1940s concept. I'm talking from a spiritual understanding. That's why I wrote the book. Because that's where I ended up. I ended up thinking, okay, this has been like I'm making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over again in my life. I'm not getting anywhere. And I'm not really happy and I'm not really fulfilled. Like, who am I? Why am I here? All those questions, right? How did I get here was a big question. Like, how the hell did I get here? You know, I thought I knew myself better because I grew up with a mom that could easily speak to people that had transitioned. She spoke to her family all the time that had transitioned. I'm like, Mom, like, how are you doing that? And she just dog patted me on the head and said, Nina, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not real. So my journey started when I was like 10 or 11. And I kept on running from it because it just, at that time, like, it wasn't a thing. You know, it just, like, this is in the 70s and 80s. It wasn't a thing, you know. to get real spiritual. And I just missed the cool 60s, which everyone's like peace and love, which was spiritual. It was a cool time. I missed that because I was too young. So I'm telling you this because I do feel that you would gain, and just go, if you don't feel like buying the book, Unpack Your Personality, Let Your Inner Guide Be Your Travel Guide. Don't. Go on the blog and read the blog. I have tons and tons and tons of blogs. Go there and start reading it. You know? And if you don't want to do that, book an Ask Me Anything question. I'll jump on the phone with you. We'll talk for an hour. Tell me what's going on with you. You have to know your personality type before you do this. And I don't have a personality test on my site because I don't feel they're that accurate. I feel it's a forced kind of question. And I think 50% of the times they're wrong. So I don't want to be a proponent of that type of test. Until I figure out a better way to take a test, I don't have that on my site. Right? So there's tons of places to go take a test. I'll put a couple in the box below so you can see where I would suggest that you take a test. But I'm telling you, it's knowing this about your personality type allows you to come into that center easily, because then you're waking up. You're not fighting yourself anymore. And that's what it took for me. That tsunami took me like, I need to get peace within myself. I need to have compassion for myself. I need to love myself. Because when those things started coming in, it started awakening my spirit mind. And my spirit mind was like, yeah, let's do this, right? I want to do this now with you, Nina. I can help. I can help you do what you're supposed to be doing in the world. I found my true calling. And during that time, I wrote a book. Seriously? Yeah, because you know what I was doing? I was going through my stuff and I was keeping track of everything that was working for me. And that's what I put in my book. So I've walked the path. I've definitely walked the path. So it's not something out here, conjecture, that I'm saying. No. I walked the path. I've built a roadmap to self-realization to help you find that true self. The logical, spirit, and divine mind. So it comes into one. Because we are a one collective. You are one. You're a human being. One. Logical, spirit mind, human being. Right? So if you want to stop the warring within you, it starts with you. Look at your world. Who are you warring with? You could be like me. You could be warring. My poor neighbors don't even get it because they're just throwing stuff in the garbage can. I'm like, how dare you throw that living plant away? Right? And so I have to be better about that. I can't let that get me so upset. But it is upsetting to me. But I have to find a way around that. So what do? I pick all these stray plants up and plant them, put them in my, I try to love on them. That's my answer. I don't know if it's the right answer or not, but that's my answer. What's your answer to your warring? What can you do? Can you bring an olive branch to the table? Stop the nonsense. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. Life is too short to be in a war with people. Life is too short to be judging everybody. Look at yourself. Look in your own backyard first. That's what I did. So I hope you found this useful. I hope that you're going to take away something and bring more peace into your life. And all this chaos and all this crazy that's around us. I want you to have more peace in your life. More stability. So when you're out in the world, like all this stuff's going on, it's like, okay, I know this is about me. I know this about my traits. I tend to do this. I'm observing that. And before I react, I'm going to think and get into contemplation and maybe not react this time. Maybe I don't need to react. Maybe it's not my place to react. Maybe it's just my place to observe, learn something, and move on. I don't know. But I hope this helps you stop the war within you. Because as soon as we all can be more peaceful, the world will become more peaceful. And isn't that what we all want? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to start doing these more often. I'm going to stop writing so many blogs, and I think I'm just going to do some videos, because I think what comes through in these videos is a little bit more in depth than what I can write on the blog, because a blog, like if I wrote all this on a blog, it would be like a tome. So I don't want to do that. Anyway, thank you all. If you like this, please subscribe. Please share it with somebody you think that this might be helpful for, right? I appreciate you. I thank you. And have a good upcoming week. All for now. Nina.